I've been buying rings like I'm Kobe.
I be in and out of arenas like I'm Scottie Pippen.
Left my elbow in the pot, a la Vince Carter.
Bitch, you wasn't with me shooting in the gym?
James Harden with the range, junkie nigga way back.
Coach, they won't knock me off my pivot. Get it?
Niggas underrate me like Jalen Brunson, but yo, I'm leaving with something.
Been flowing stupid since Vince Carter was on some through the legs arm and a hoop shit.
Fresh Prince jacket, boy, I cook them to the inside out.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, now you do.
Okay. Yes, sir. We are back. Round of applause for yourselves. This is your guy, Marcellus Ease. And of course, we're going to be cooking up today. Sometimes you got to unplug from them usual algorithms and mix a little bit of the organic with the inorganic. But yeah, it's going to be some interesting topics to touch on. As usual, the league is warming up. Things are about to get a little crazy. To start off, we're going to take a look at Tracy and McGrady comparing Ant-Man and SGA almost at the same level and not respecting the journey of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And we're going to tie that into how that somewhat applies to the rest of the NBA media as they subconsciously kind of disrespect or just downgrade the expectations of the international stars. And then we'll touch base on something that hasn't quite hit your algorithm yet, which is Jokic possibly entering the top 10 in that GOAT conversation. It's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable, but the way he's trending right now, if he has a few more seasons of what he's doing, it's going to make the fan base of certain stars quite uncomfortable. But in that segment, we'll cover some of the Jokic versus Larry Bird comparisons. And it's quite interesting. The fact that Jokic is cooking up the way he is leaves no doubt that Larry Bird would be definitely dominating in this era. I'm always saying when it comes to that GOAT conversation, the media side to that game is very important. And that NBA media marketing machine is truly a beast. And speaking of NBA media, they're starting to wake up of the realities of what's going down in LA in regards to them maximizing Luka's prime years. This season, with Luka's lack of defense just being much more apparent because of the Lakers' lack of speed in their backcourt, some of the NBA media members are starting to become very skeptical if Luka could actually peak out and bring that championship to LA. Then we'll hop over and hear from Pablo Torre as he's become a thorn in Adam Silver's ass, low-key. But again, he exposes the business dealings of another NBA owner, as when the Memphis Grizzlies were purchased, there were no real intentions for keeping them in the same city. Last but not least, when the body can't hold up, my man Paul George might need that LeBron James stimulus package. Who knows? Allegedly. But in that segment, we'll take a look at when NBA players hang around the league a little bit too long and the body can't necessarily hold up to that max contract. Also, this situation is a little bit multi-layered, as Charles Barkley and the inside NBA guys kind of use this situation as a sort of chess piece, because there are a lot of rumors going around that the NBA low-key try to silence them with that ESPN deal. So we'll take a deep dive into that. So one of the more interesting dynamics is playing out within NBA media, especially as a lot of former athletes begin to enter that space, is the overlooking and just the moving of the goalposts for the international stars such as Jokic and SGA. And in this segment, we'll see it play out no further than some of the remarks that Tracy McGrady had made about Anthony Edwards and SGA being almost on the same level. And that is a major blind spot that the NBA media overall has for the international stars just not respecting their journeys. Keep in mind, SGA is the same age as Jason Tatum, and he won an NBA championship on a team where the average age is 25. Go take a look back at the championship ceremony. These guys did not even know how to open champagne bottles. But this is indeed a blind spot by a lot of the former players within the media. SGA within his journey did not even make the playoffs in the 2022-2023 season, as Anthony Edwards eliminated his team in the play-in. So once again, when it comes to a lot of these guys, especially the brand new stars of today, they are going to have to combine their on-court success with a little bit of media savviness to kind of align them with certain people to uphold their image throughout the years. LeBron James has mastered this. Michael Jordan has a perfect formula of on-court success and also having certain pundits within the media to actually uphold his legacy as the years go by. Because that's really the main difference between the stars of the 80s, the 70s. They didn't necessarily have the opportunity to position themselves within the media because the NBA back then wasn't the big global money-making machine that we see today. So we're going to get into it. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
I think Ant-Man. I think Ant-Man is right there with Shea, if not better. Defensively, I mean, he's a on-the-ball, lockdown defender. He's making you work. I think his competitive drive, his spirit is different than everybody else's.
Yeah.
Ant-Man got the American swag. It's undeniable. The media loves it, and they're used to it. Look at the legends we still uphold. The Magic Johnsons with the smile, the charisma, the Michael Jordan with the hoop earring, the tongue out, Kobe Bryant, the cockiness. The NBA overall has been marketed a certain way, especially when it comes to their figureheads in the last, I would say, 40 years plus. You would think some of that would translate over to SGA, but there is a major disconnect because he definitely has the aura, the style, the fashion. He's killing it on the court. His playmaking ability is where Anthony Edwards is going to make the next leap when he gets there. Ant-Man is going to have to get his teammates more involved. Sometimes the T-Wolves look like they need a point guard out there to facilitate that offense. But Ant-Man has made leaps over the years. But SGA right now, especially after the 2025 finals, he's in a whole different bag. And it's not only on the offensive side. In the NBA Finals in Game 4, on the road, they looked like they were about to go down 3-1 against the Pacers, especially in that third quarter in Game 3. SGA had nothing going for himself, but he locked in defensively, and then in the fourth quarter, he came alive and dropped 15 points. And this is coming off a 7-game series previously where he had to go mano-a-mano with Jokic. Once again, you would figure that SGA has a total package, but yet he's still not held to a certain esteem. It's not just T-Mac right here talking. The rest of the media subconsciously sort of feels this way. It goes to show you how the league really knows how to market itself with an American star as the figurehead. Eventually down the line, if Cooper Flag starts winning, he is going to have a different shine on him versus Luka Doncic being from a different country. Even the way Cooper plays, you can tell he's an American-born player and he has that braggadocious style that we all love.
Right? I think his approach is different. I think he has less talent, depth, I should say, on his roster than someone like Shea, so it's going to look different.
No, T-Mac. At the moment right now, especially after playing Monday morning quarterback, it looks that way. But Ant-Man once again had eliminated SGA in the 2022-2023 play-in tournament. So the Thunder did not make the playoffs. And Edwards always had more polished veterans on his team. Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert, and also Karl Anthony Towns, who was in the league, I believe, about 5 to 6 years before Ant-Man got there. So it can't be forgotten how SGA was in that purgatory after getting traded from the Clippers, where the Thunder were just collecting picks for a couple of years. There was that time where they got Kemba Walker, CP3. They were just in a phase of collecting picks, and they went from missing the playoffs, getting eliminated in the play-in, to being first place in their conference. And all this was done with a bunch of young players. By the time they won the finals, the average age on that team was 25 years old. That cannot be overlooked. And keep in mind, Jason Tatum and SGA are the same age.
But for Ant-Man to have taken his team, and he's not doing by himself, but to him have 2 Western Conference Finals on his resume at this age and what he's right there with Shea.
I don't want Ant to take that question the wrong way because you've been on the scene. You've been that guy. I think
for sure.
I'm talking more so next step. And we've talked about this on the show NBC about his ability now to learn how to manipulate the situation in defenses, meaning early in games getting guys involved more.
Last year in the playoffs, when the T-Wolves went up against the Lakers, Ant-Man has shown that he has improved on this. Sometimes the easy shit came hard for him, like finishing at the rim. I don't know why he missed so many layups in that series. But he has taken a step forward. The only thing is that can he make that final quantum leap? And if not, the T-Wolves might have to consider getting at least a ball handler that can felicitate the offense. Because right now we're in this era of the NBA where teams are not necessarily playing with traditional point guards, but at a point, not all these guys like Paolo Banchero, and we're going to see if Cade Cunningham could take that step up, but not all of these guys are going to be winning past a certain level. They may need, I don't want to say a traditional point guard, but they may need an additional ball handler on the team to get other guys more involved. It took Jason Tatum some time to figure it out as he was in that role. We've seen Asar Thompson down in Houston being thrusted into this role with Fred VanVleet being injured. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George sort of ran into a wall in the bubble going up against Jokic because throughout that series, sometimes they got stuck in a rut, just having to create for themselves a little bit too much. Jalen Johnson and the Hawks have thrived so much in this role that they ended up getting rid of Trae Young. But at the end of the day, at some point, they're going to have to figure out how far can they go climbing up the ladder throughout the playoffs with him just being thrusted in that role. Again, for some of these guys, they're going to end up hitting a wall. And I believe the Orlando Magic this season is starting to look at things a little bit different with Paolo Banchero.
To learn how to manipulate the situation in defenses, meaning early in games, getting guys involved more to make the game easier for him in the second half, for him to be as dominant. So learning that I can still get 35 points, but it doesn't translate to wins all the time. And I feel like now he's understand, if I get DiVincenzo, now I got Julius. Let Julius get rolling, get McDaniels, get some of my role guys, even get Mike Conley when he comes in. You get guys who are on the floor knocking down shots or even shooting shots. Maybe they're not making it. You make that defender think. Now that's a half a step to your advantage to get to the, because when he get 1 foot in the paint, lift off.
Yeah. So
and it sets everything else up, and it makes the fourth quarter, the last 5 minutes easier.
Yeah. So that 35, doing it that way is more impactful and meaningful, than you going out scoring 35. DiVincenzo has like 5 points. The other guy's production is really low, and you having to take 30 shots to get those 35 points.
And a lot of them are bad shots now as opposed to what can transpire. That's why I think Shea, that's where Shea, being a point guard, having the ball in his hand, which now I think they're putting the ball in Ant-Man's hands, in Ant-Man's hands more.
Yeah.
But I think Shea has been in that position as a point guard, can get the ball, get guys going, get J-Dub going, and then he knows it's his time. But it's also a different dynamic. That team as a whole understands who he is, he meaning Shea, and they know he's our guy. He's gonna get us the ball. We trust him, and just like we trusted him, like he trusts us.
And that's the thing right there. SGA does get his teammates the ball, whether they're hot or not. And his playmaking ability, especially when he gets into that high post area, is undeniable. I mean, he's like fucking Neo right now in the Matrix, just either finding the cutters or just the open shooters, or just knocking down the mid-range himself. I would love to see Ant-Man get into the high post area to kind of compromise these defenses a lot more, because sometimes he's a little bit too caught up just going through the legs nonstop at the three-point line. When you got a vertical like that, it's almost a waste.
And that's where I think Minnesota has not gotten yet. That's why, but I think for where they are, ups and downs, all the injuries Minnesota had, they on the come up.
Yeah, I think what not Shea, but I think what Ant-Man is going to have to figure out is simplifying the game, closing out the game.
Hey, right here, T-Mac is spot on. Closing out these games, especially when you start getting to that second round to conference finals. That's truly the next leap for him. And SGA kind of went through the same thing because his team outside of him and J-Dub doesn't really have a ball handler who can create their own shot. So when it came to the closing moments of some of these games, Whether they were up by 3 with a minute left or up by 5 with 2 minutes left, sometimes they fell into a rut. And we seen them overcame those hurdles last season in that 7-game series against Jokic. Normally with OKC, all you had to do is keep the game tight at the end. And that's the same hurdle that Ant-Man has to climb over. That's why I'm surprised T-Mac kind of stated that Ant-Man and SGA is almost at the same level, and that's not the case.
His point attack can't be always from the three-point line.
I agree.
He has to play a little bit around that
Little set-up
mid-post.
basketball a little bit.
Running that mid-post area, that free throw line area, because he's so explosive.
That's the same exact area SGA occupies when he's playmaking and killing at the mid-range. T-Mac's comments right here just debunked his initial statements, kind of alluding that Ant-Man and SGA are at the same level, because all the things he wants to see Edwards do a lot more is things that SGA is already kind of mastered right now. He's in a completely different bag.
And in those areas, you can see defenses, you can read defenses better, right? And your point of attack is, it's one dribble and you at the basket, or it's one dribble in that area. You could create so much space because the angles that you're in. So I'm hoping that he's watched film, because he struggled with that in the playoffs last year when teams loaded up on him. Yeah. So I'm hoping he's watched film and then worked on his game on being able to get his shot off in that phone booth when he's in those areas, right?
That's old terminology there, boy.
It can't be, multiple dribbles trying to get you. No, it has to be bang, bang.
Get to
it, and get out of there.
And I think I made mention of that on air as well. You're seeing more of that in the regular season from him now.
Yes.
Obviously preparing himself for playoffs, because he understands that's what was missing to close out, obviously.
But what we don't want, though, shooting those, I don't know, how we probably averaging 8, maybe 10 threes in the regular season. Can't do that in the playoffs.
T-Mac is cooking. In that exact scenario with Anthony Edwards not being able to get off all those threes in the playoffs will actually show the T-Wolves if they truly need a point guard to get to that next level, just an additional ball handler. The higher up you go in these rounds, when you have your superstar just chucking up 8 threes a game, it means you're settling a lot and there's nobody to get guys in their spots. The offense is kind of stagnant. It made sense why the T-Wolves had traded for Mike Conley a couple years back. And with some of their other younger point guards not necessarily catching up fast enough, they might have to send out a package to get somebody a little bit more polished.
I'd rather see a couple of those threes turn into free throws.
We got to attack in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, you got to put pressure on whoever is guarding you. You got to put pressure on them. Playoffs, you should be shooting 10 to 12 free throws.
Especially
him.
He's very capable.
Yes.
Indeed. But at the end of the day, the international stars, they're sort of getting subconsciously overlooked. Their whole come up into their success is not being as well respected. There's a gap there. And I would say SGA and Jokic, or any of the international stars, even guys like Luka, they're going to have to master the PR side or just the media side of the game. There's a lot of trickle-down effects from the whole First Take, Undisputed, Stephen A. Smith sports debate culture. So mastering the media side of the game and just getting certain allies to uphold their image and propagate certain narratives to the masses is truly a must in this era. Speaking of international stars, Bill Simmons and Max Kellerman had did a sit-down where a real uncomfortable conversation for some came up, which is Jokic entering that top 10 list. Keep in mind, even though he did win back-to-back MVPs in the 2021 season and also in 2022, while he shot a career-high 62% from the field while almost averaging a triple-double. He eventually went on the following season to win his 3rd MVP award, but in 2025, he put up even better numbers in a very close race with SGA. And now in 2026, he's still putting up the same numbers, but even better shooting percentages from the field. So as of right now, we're talking about almost 6 seasons in of him just putting unbelievable numbers up. And now the interesting conversation came up whether a player with 1 championship could be placed in the top 10. That's where things nowadays get kind of tricky, because with the media landscape and the way it is, guys are going to have to combine their on-court success with a few media allies to propagate their legacies to the masses just to uphold it, especially the international players, as the media, they kind of have a slight bias against them. The goalpost, sometimes it gets moved over, or whatever achievements that they have made. If it was an American player doing the same thing, we wouldn't stop hearing about it. But the fellas touch base on it, and I gotta say, Max Kellerman, he loves these imaginary GOAT conversations, but every once in a while, there's some great nuances that come from it. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
So I'd have Wilt 5, you have Bird and Magic right after that. Fine, whatever. So you think Duncan is right after Bird and Magic?
I do. And guess what? I think Jokic is coming. But yeah, I don't think it can only be with one title.
Agreed.
Because now we're in the titles. I don't love the ring culture, but it's really tough to put a one title guy in like the top 8 of all time. But I said this last month to Legler. I think he's the best offensive player I've ever seen. I wasn't there for Wilt, but of anyone I've watched in my lifetime, Jordan was the best player I've ever seen.
He was the best. He was a better offensive player too, Bill. Like,
I don't know.
Like,
Jokic.
The thing about Jokic, he gets his points in the flow of the game a lot different, and it also involves his teammates organically. Just some of the games he's having this season where he's getting over 35 points in a game and he's shooting 80% from the field. He has multiple games this season like that.
Yes, of course, Jokic is going to shoot better because in this era, you're going to take those shots
I'm
so
saying
much
he does
more.
everything he does. It doesn't matter who's on his team. He is just, his team is going to score points. He will figure out, what do we need today? I'll do that. And he's just going to, I've just never seen a guy like him in person. I was there for the entire Jordan thing and saw great Jordan games.
You think Jokic is as good offensively as Larry Bird? For his, you have to say his era because, of course, the skills improve.
And as you know, Larry Bird is my favorite player of all time.
Sure.
And my sports hero. I think he was a better offensive player. But because of the size is what makes it different.
Now, even though Bill right here has a little bias since he's a Boston Celtics fan, he is right. The size is the difference, but the passing ability is very similar. And keep in mind, Larry Bird is a player, when he joined his team, they won 61 games that season versus the 29 the year prior. So the impact on winning is very apparent, and the same thing would apply to Jokic. That's why he's really cooking up no matter who's out there on the court with him. He was still able to take the Thunder into a 7-game series, even though his team really didn't have a deep bench to go to.
Like, okay, in an absolute sense, all the athletes are always getting better because they're building on what came before them, right?
True.
Okay. So the 10th best sprinter in the world today is much, much better than Jesse Owens.
Yeah.
But that's a ridiculous statement to make because they're two different eras. Who's the greater, right?
This is the Bob Cousy argument.
Sure.
This is why I get mad when Cousy just gets cut out because it's like, oh, he played a million years ago. It's like, well,
at that time,
he was the most important basketball player we had until Russell showed up. And he was the best guard of the first 15 years of the league. Like, that has to matter a little bit.
Absolutely. And I would say that Jokic in his day, as great as he is, I'll take Larry Bird in his day. Larry Bird.
It's a good argument because Larry had 3 straight MVPs and then 87 was his best season.
I remember as a kid, and my dad loved Larry Bird, which killed me as a Knicks fan because he said the Celtics play, the way they played reminded him of the Knicks championship teams, like the unselfish way they played. But I was like, all I knew was Boston Celtics, Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Get out of here with that, Dad, right? But inside, I remember thinking, I'm a little kid, I'm thinking, I'll never see anybody this good again. Like the whole thing with Bird and Magic came because Magic was able to adapt and he played longer and he had this weird prime that just kept going even as he kind of adjusted as a player.
In 90, 91. That's what Bird really only had the 9 years and then his body started to break down. Magic had like 11.
When they were both at their best head-to-head.
Bird was slightly better.
I would say Bird's IQ and just being able to perform in the clutch is really high. And that's where a lot of the stats won't show you when, you know, they do these imaginary debates on who's the GOAT. And sometimes they overlook Larry Bird when it comes to small forwards, which sounds crazy, but that's some of the trickle-down effects from that sports debate culture from First Take. There's a lot more nuances to the game than just stats.
really debated. You know, in fact, like the guy who Larry was compared to early, it's a little revisionist history now because it's perfect with the college stuff and everything, was Dr. J commercially.
Right.
But
you have that behind you over your right shoulder. The Bird versus Dr. J.
Right. Yeah, the Converse ads or
no,
whatever.
That was his. Philly was their rival. It was funny because the Lakers, they played them in the finals those 3 times, but Philly was the hump to get over year after year.
Dude.
Yeah.
You know, but at any rate,
he's another one who's slipped through the cracks of history now.
And that's the thing about the players of the past. The media side of the game is something that they would now have to play in order to uphold their image and just kind of propagate it to the masses. Just imagine if the more modern day reporters or just on-air personalities like Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharp, if they had a great relationship with these guys, when they have these GOAT debates, they would just toss their names in there. And that idea would sort of be implemented in the audience's subconscious that, you know, this player does belong in a certain tier. And we don't see that from the players of the past. That's where Michael Jordan and LeBron, they have mastered the media side of what I like to call the GOAT game, a perfect synergy of just on-court success and also having certain plants within the media to uphold your image as time goes on and the newer generations come in and they sort of don't even consider you to a degree.
Yeah, because the ABA, but in the ABA, he was God. You know,
I would say the first 6-7 years of NBA in person, he was unbelievable to see in person with like his fucking Freddy Krueger going into the lane with one arm, all that shit.
But Bird
nobody
and Magic
was like
were
that.
like,
they were different.
They were different.
So that's why I think Jokic is in that conversation with them because of what he does. He can completely change the identity of guys who, if they didn't play with him, would have had completely different careers.
Look at Russell Westbrook when he went to Denver after that whole Lakers fiasco. Jokic, in a way, sort of revived his image after Jamal Murray kind of started off the season with an injury. That's what great players do.
And that's a different list.
The first time he had a shot at it, he has, you know, if there's a guard on your team who's a B+, but in the playoffs, he becomes an A+.
Yeah.
And I know Jokic wasn't quite in his prime yet, but you can't rise to that same level in that series. That's, you know, that's like LeBron against Dallas.
But he
really.
loses two Murray playoff years because Murray gets hurt right before the playoffs.
And as soon as he had a shot, and they get Aaron Gordon, they get the right kind of third guy. And
honestly, last year what he did against OKC was pretty amazing, just to even drag that series to 7 games.
Facts. That does not get talked about enough. The fact that the Thunder had that deep team, and it was really just Jokic out there sort of uplifting the Nuggets and just keeping them in that series. It really shows you how great of a player that he is. And just to flash back in that bubble series against the Clippers, where the Nuggets came back from being down 3-1 against Kawhi and Paul George, that was the rest of the league's warning that Jokic was on his way. At the time, I did put out a video acknowledging this. I'll link in the description below. But yeah, some of the things that he was doing on the court was undeniable. And a few seasons later, Paul George had also alluded that they continuously had no answer for Jokic.
Gordon had a big piece of that too. But
he's an incredible player, but I'm Jokic. But I'm with you. He's a guy who, like, one championship would make is like Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers just winning one Super Bowl, it ain't going to cut it in the all-time arguments because his talent suggests, like, wait, you're with Drew Brees and them? You're so much better than those guys, right?
It's true. But this is why Curry's 22 is so important.
So important because that's the first time he was the best player on either team in a championship.
He pulled them up. There's no way they win unless he goes.
I would say the same thing for Kobe Bryant's 2010 championship against the Boston Celtics. That one right there was probably more important than all the other championships he's won combined. He fully solidified himself against a very, very difficult team.
Put Curry in the top 10 ever conversation, regardless of position.
So the thing with Jokic and Duncan and Bird and Magic is I think it's actually impossible not to win 50 games if you had those guys in their peak.
Yep.
And this is the part that things Kobe, who I've kind of come around especially when I wrote my book versus what the 09-10 was so important for him, those last 2 titles. But those middle 3 years in the Lakers when it was like, all right, dude, now you have to carry us. The team's not that good. And they just weren't, even in 06, like when he drags them to 45 wins, there's no 45-win Tim Duncan season.
So
this right here is really interesting because not every superstar is easy to build around. Certain guys need the perfect concoction or something close to it. A player like Tim Duncan is very similar to Jokic. You can put a certain cast of guys around him and it could work. I would say the same thing for Kevin Durant in his prime, a player like Patrick Ewing. There's certain stars where you don't have to put that much around them for them to cook. Michael Jordan is another person I would add on to that list. In his final season, The Last Dance, without Scottie Pippen, that team was on a roll. And let me add on this. When it comes to Luka, I don't want to say it's very similar to Kobe, but you do have to have a certain roster around him, especially when it comes to the lack of defense in the backcourt. Not all stars are created equal. Ja Morant, Zion Williams, that's another 2 that's more recent, and these guys are hard to build around.
So there are different ways to look at this. If I have nothing, I have garbage on my team, and I want to get my team as close as possible to winning a championship, LeBron James is the answer to that, right?
I would throw Jokic in there too, though.
Okay, but
Jokic had that year after Murray. Before I can't remember if Aaron Gordon was on there or not, but you go back and you look at the roster he had.
Yeah, not
it's
good.
like, how is this a playoff contender?
You can take it. My pick all time would be LeBron. If you have something,
I think that's fair.
If you have something on your team, my pick is Michael Jordan. Because every time Michael Jordan ever played with one other All-Star, except for when he came back for 20-something games, he won. He never didn't win the championship in under 7 games.
I mean, he almost won in 90 before Pippen was Pippen.
I mean, he was on a nice regular season run without Scottie Pippen during the Last Dance season. That's why Scottie rushed to get back. MJ and the Bulls was kind of proving that we don't really need you.
By the way, and then they go to 7 games against the defending back-to-back champions.
Pippen gets a
migraine, and they still like otherwise maybe he wins, right? The point is with Kobe, not that so he's more like Jordan. Give Kobe something to work with, and he's going to take you as far as you can go.
I still feel like
stuff.
there was some behind-the-scenes stuff with him that had to sort itself out over the years with his personality, and there was too much written about what a tough teammate he was.
This right here is another factor that kind of gives the international guys more of an edge because they are more coachable. And when everyone makes these GOAT lists or just the all GOAT team, which team is better? I could build a better GOAT team than you. They never factor in the personality, the chemistry fit, the spacing. Does this lineup even make sense? Like, for an example, a team with Allen Iverson, Kobe, and LeBron on it, if you were just making an all-GOAT team, if they were to play on the court, the chemistry would not be quite a good fit. These type of scenarios is exactly what's missing from these type of conversations. There's more nuance to the game than just, oh, this person is a GOAT because look at their numbers. A prime example is Draymond Green's impact. 20 years from now, there'll be some kid just pointing to his stats saying this guy is nothing, but not understanding the nuance that he brought that made Golden State Golden State.
It's the hardest thing to put into context with his career because his own coach was writing books about how impossible he was to coach, right? And then they hashed it out and they really figured out an unbelievable relationship over the second part of it. But that's still, you have to look at the first half of his career. You have to count that in at least a little bit.
Have there ever been 2 superstars where they're among the greatest players in the history of American team sports, both, and one of them was such a close replica of the other? Kobe is in terms of his size, his position, his game, his accomplishments, how effective he was.
Well, he also studied Jordan and actually
he also
tried
had to be
emulate
6'6" and play shooting guard and have the same coach and everything. But you have the greatest play. I think Michael Jordan, to me, is clearly and by far the greatest athlete who ever lived. Like in his sport, the greatest athlete who ever lived. Everyone wanted to be like Mike, right? There were commercials. No one, like the next guy who came into the conversation who actually made it an argument had to do something different. It was LeBron, right?
Yeah.
He's like kind of the first postmodern player where he's like, I'm Magic and Michael. Kobe
with
was
some
the
Dr. J.
Yeah. Kobe was the only guy really with the guts to say, I'm going to, people misuse the word emulate all the time, right? They think it means imitate, but really it means imitate in a way that surpasses.
Yeah.
You're trying to surpass the original. Kobe had the guts to try to do the same thing the greatest of all time did, better than the greatest of all time did it. I don't think he got there, but he was basically Michael Jordan. He was like Michael Jordan minus a hair.
Hey, speaking of hair, Kobe Bryant imitated Michael Jordan so bad that he grew his hair out to kind of deflect that narrative.
Like Michael Jordan minus a hair, right? But damn, that's good. That's so good.
Well, and then he used some of the career advantages that his era had to try to beat him, which is what LeBron's doing too. Like Jordan basically, comes in 3 years in college. Age 35 is like 42 now.
Yep.
That's when he won the 98 title, right? It's like, oh my God, he's 35. And now, you can play 20 years. And that's why, like, even you look at the football, like why Rodgers, who seemed like he was done last year, it's like, maybe he's not done. Like, who knows with all the shit we have. And now you watch him like, oh yeah, he's done.
Yeah, he's not. He
but
hasn't
you have to
been.
at least keep the door open for him not being done.
Guys are definitely playing a lot longer, and it shows you how great Kevin Durant truly is. The fact that he's all the way up there in the all-time scoring list, and he's missed about 2.5 seasons of his prime. But it is what it is. When it comes to Jokic, I gotta say, since 2020, that little stretch until now is quite the feat. And had he been an American-born player, they would be making a huge ordeal out of just his numbers, the way he gets his teammates involved, the way every single season, I would say around December, January, he's either leading the league in multiple major categories like points, rebounds, assists. Just imagine if LeBron was doing all this. We would not hear the end of it. But hey, if he gets another title or two, the only thing that's going to leave him out of the top 10 is just not having enough media members to kind of propagate that image. So the same way Tim Duncan and just other stars of the past that don't really have that brand recognition. And it's unfortunate. I'll put Kareem also in that boat. No one really cared about the all-time leading scorer until LeBron had broke that record. Now all of a sudden it's used as an accolade when it comes to comparing GOATs. I gotta say, Max Kellerman, he loves these imaginary GOAT conversations, but sometimes there is a little bit of nuance that is worth diving into. So as we enter a year into this whole Luka Doncic and LA experience, a small portion of the mainstream sports media is beginning to wake up to the fact that a real championship aspiration with Luka Doncic being on this team is going to be harder to achieve than one would expect. Colin Cowherd right here makes a comparison to Luka's lack of defense to another similar superstar in Carmelo Anthony. And in his soliloquy, there is an acknowledgement that this does not necessarily all fall on Luka, as Rob Pelinka's lack of off-season moves is really coming into question. Let's not forget the Dallas Mavericks have laid down the blueprint of how to build a team around Luka Doncic. You got to have a lot of versatile wings defending multiple positions and occasionally being able to knock down that three-point shot. PJ Washington, Max Christie, Najee Marshall, Derrick Jones Jr. in that 2024 finals run, Klay Thompson, Quentin Grimes, etc. And part of that formula does include a couple of high flyers at center. Guys like Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, and even to a degree, the only thing that Rob Pelinka did right on the current day Lakers is going out and getting DeAndre Ayton. So just taking a step back and looking at this from the outside in, we're all left to wonder, what offseason plans did Rob Pelinka really have? LeBron, even though having that player option, if Rob Pelinka had a great plan, they could have restructured his deal and make more room for the Lakers to get more versatile wings to back up Luka defensively. When you had players like Norman Powell sitting out there in the offseason, not necessarily getting an extension from the Clippers, there were opportunities to at least structure this little bit of last run with LeBron and Luka in a different way to perhaps put them in a real position to win. Here's Colin Cowherd right here, a big part of the mainstream sports media, and even they're starting to wake up to some of these dynamics. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
The Lakers are 29-19. LeBron's 41. And when he and Luka are on the court together this season, they're on minus 70. They can't play together. Why? Because something I've been shouting from the beginning of the season. Do not be fooled by the Lakers. The Knicks are not fooling you. The Knicks fired a coach. They shouldn't have. They brought in Mike Brown. He's a veteran. It's going to take him a while to figure it out. The Knicks fans wanted to jump off of one of those, those New York, Midtown buildings. Take a deep breath. New coach. The Knicks have a lot of elements that a lot of teams would like to have. OG, you could trade him tomorrow. Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, even Cat can score against almost any big. The Knicks are not fool's gold. But what you're watching with LeBron, I saw a stat this morning. Do you know who the three slowest defensive players in the league are? James Harden is number one. Do you know who number two is? LeBron. You know who number three is? Luka.
And I'm pretty sure Austin Reeves is not that far behind. The real thing to point out here is Rob Pelinka already knowing this, seeing the formula that Dallas had with Luka before. Why wasn't there any offseason moves made? And even if there was an idea of what to do, LeBron James just having his whole enterprise in LA, he doesn't want to leave. He would have restructured his deal in a way to make this team competitive. If we really had to place our bets and go all in, it's not far-fetched to come to the conclusion that Rob Pelinka didn't really have any plans. Once again, Rich Paul alluded to this in his Cold War podcast with Max Kellerman.
In the entire league, they have two of the three slowest players. What does that mean? It's roster construction. And when Austin Reeves comes back, it's going to be fool's gold. The Lakers should have watched what Dallas did with Luka. When you have a star player who's a poor defender, and Luka is, Steph Curry, you surround him with Draymond Green, Klay Thompson in his prime, Andre Iguodala, willing defenders, tough guys, bouncers at the bar, to cover for your star. Rob Pelinka and the Lakers have doubled down on Luka, just less talented. Austin Reeves, not super athletic, not a great defender. LeBron, 41, slow, can't defend.
Austin Reeves is also in a contract year. It wouldn't shock me if LeBron really wanted Pelinka to flip Austin Reeves to get more versatile wings in that backcourt. Let's not get it twisted. Even though LeBron James is at the age of 41, the way he's performing out there and just him when he's locked in being a much better defender than Luka, it's not really that hard to believe the gap between the two is not that far off, especially when you have to perform deep in the playoffs, and that defense is definitely more emphasized.
Oh, let's go get DeAndre Ayton, below average defender. They just keep adding players who are not athletic, fast, quick, and can defend. But when you go back to when Luka succeeded in Dallas, they had Daniel Jones, they had Gafford protecting the rim, they had the Duke rookie. Oh, they were athletic. You've got to cover for Luka. And I've said this before about Luka. When he came to the Lakers, I said, stop pretending he's LeBron. LeBron, Kobe, MJ in their prime, Duncan in their prime, Kareem in his prime, Bird in their prime. These guys gave you maximum defensive effort. D. Wade in his prime. Luka's Carmelo, a better version. He's never going to be in great shape for any extended period. He's not interested. Defense is a hobby. Sometimes he's into it, and then he loses patience or interest.
And I'll say this about Luka, he's a lot better passer, but the way the ball doesn't necessarily move as much on offense, he does have similarities to Carmelo, ball stopper right there. And I would say deep in the post or just in the elbows, Carmelo would have a lot better defense than Luka.
And so these new owners inherited this Lakers situation. Okay, the Knicks record looks like the Lakers record, but when they play, you can see the clear difference. They've got OG's a defender. By the way, the Knicks realize Jalen Brunson's a below-average defender. So they get guys who can defend. Mikal Bridges, OG, Josh Hart, it gives you everything he's got.
Hey, Cowherd, are you saying Rob Pelinka is fucking up right here? Where was his offseason moves after he landed his big fish? This right here is exactly what Rich Paul alluded to in his podcast with Max Kellerman. And the real litmus test for Rob Pelinka is going to be when Luka's eligible for that 10-year Supermax. The Lakers will be the first team that have to actually build a roster around a player that's making that type of money. We're talking about $80 million plus in a league where if you get into that second apron, you get punished on how you can construct these rosters going from year to year. I understand Rob Pelinka landed Luka and everyone rejoiced, but his true genius, or just him being known as that guy who could build a team, that litmus test is going to come when Luka gets that new max contract in 2 more seasons.
Right? They had the kid, DiVincenzo, who, by the way, done a great defender, great effort player, but they had to eventually move off him. Another great tough guy. So I'm watching this yesterday, and it's you see the records, and a lot of people would say, well, the Lakers have got it going because they've got the best player, Luka. But do the Lakers and the new owners realize when you have Luka, you've got to build a wall of athletic defenders around him? And Austin Reeves and LeBron, that's not the answer. That is the opposite of the answer.
And based off of Rob Pelinka's offseason moves, just signing Marcus Smart, it's hard to pinpoint if he was aware of the mess that the current day roster, especially with Austin Reeves being part of that backcourt with LeBron and just Luka, that really setting the Lakers up to get the same kind of gentleman's sweep that they got from Anthony Edwards last year in the postseason. But we'll see. Rob Pelinka definitely could have worked things out with LeBron James where he didn't have to opt in for that $50 million, and then he could have worked his magic just like how he allegedly did to get Luka, to try to get guys like Norman Powell. Miami end up trading for him and getting him on a good deal. And that's Norman Powell coming off an all-star season. Options were definitely available. And Jeannie Buss just gave Rob Pelinka an extension also. The politics around that in itself is another tricky spot. But the Lakers do have a history of letting too many guys get to the position that Austin Reeves is at today, where he could possibly walk away from this team as a free agent. The same thing happened for Alex Caruso when the Lakers did have an opportunity to extend him early. But we'll see how it plays out. There's a lot of things coming at Rob Pelinka all at once. All that praise that he got for getting Luka by just sending away Anthony Davis and 1 first-round pick is beginning to wear off. Laker fans do have the expectation of just being in the mix and competing for championships. That is the gold standard that Dr. Buss has set for that franchise. For Rob Pelinka, maximizing Luka's prime years in LA, it's going to be proven to be a much more difficult task than expected. So within this situation of Paul George getting suspended for 25 games for testing positive for a banned substance, there's a number of things playing out underneath the surface of that initial story. Charles Barkley and the other crew members of the Inside NBA show had kind of used this as a leverage tool to kind of war with the NBA, as they did make statements a week before about the lack of scheduling this season. Other media pundits had came out and stated that they felt like the league were slowly silencing their voices as some of their coverage doesn't promote the modern game in the best light. But again, this whole shit is multi-layered and it gets tricky. Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal right here sort of debunks Paul George's whole initial statement, giving great details that only players would know of how hard it is to really fail these tests, even if you're taking outside medication that'll help with your mental illness. The NBA as well as the Players Union have an agreement where if guys do end up getting suspended, the league cannot make public statements regarding to the details of that suspension, but only the players can. So Paul George is making the mental illness claim really can't be debunked by the league in a public way. We got to pay attention to the timing of the suspension also. It came on a Saturday morning, right before a number of trades were about to go through in the same week of the trade deadline. This is currently the age of just being outraged for a day and forget about it tomorrow. So again, these are interesting times. And Charles Barkley and the NBA Inside crew right here pretty much debunks Paul George's initial statement while they're in a silent cold war with the NBA. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
It's unfortunate that this happened, but I just want to say that, they give us a booklet on what to do and what not to do. They give us a booklet. They also give you inside the booklet how long it takes to get rid of something. So, you know, I don't want to elaborate what he was doing or what he was doing, but, you know, stuff like this should not happen because they give you the booklet that said, don't take this, 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 and this, the letter of the law. Do not take any of these things. And when you've been in the league this long, you know what it is. You know, they test you 3 to 4 times a year. So, you know, but this is definitely going to hurt him. But, you know, listen, Edgecomb's been playing great. Maxi's starting to play a little bit better. Embiid is coming back. You know, they still have a little bit of momentum. So somebody else has have to step up. But when you're going into a postseason, you like to have a guy with experience like Paul George.
No wonder the players always passing the drug test, especially for, you know, some of that good dank. The league precisely gives them the information on how long it takes for that shit to get out their system. But right here, Charles Barkley doubles down and gives more inside information that only the players would know.
That doesn't make, listen, like I say, as my girl Judge Judy said, if it doesn't make sense to me, it don't make sense because I like Paul George. But if the NBA and, you know, DeMar DeRozan, who we love, and Kevin Love, they've been the two most outspoken advocates for mental health. But if you're taking some for mental health, even if it's on a list, you should get a hall pass. So this does not sound.
Is that the rule, though? I mean, is that
no. No.
I don't know the rule, but that just doesn't make sense.
Like, there's never a good reason taking performance-enhancing drugs, Shaq. But if you're taking a drug for your mental health, you should get a hall pass.
And I would put it like this: if you were having a heart attack, and they gave you medicine to stop your heart attack, and then you could play 2 weeks, and that wouldn't stop you from playing. Like, to me, the league wouldn't do that. So there has to be something else that they have to address, or that is coming out because it just doesn't make sense.
But we don't need any players suffering from mental health. If they got a pill out there that can help you with that, you should get a hall pass. But this sounds fishy.
And it is definitely fishy, but the inside crew is letting you know if any player tests positive for a medication that they took in order to protect their overall health, just them being able to function as a human, a suspension would not follow. This overall situation is tricky for the media to even report. A lot of the major pundits around the NBA have remained quiet about the details of this situation or even reporting about it in their independent platforms. The many NBA shows on The Ringer, no one even spoke on it. Same thing for Brian Windhorst. Those are just some of the names, but you fellas can look it up yourselves. These guys have completely avoided going into further details about the situation. The NBA right now does have a former figurehead in LeBron James who's 41 years old and is still jumping out the gym. Maybe Podcast P need to holler at LeBron James for that stimulus package. But again, it's the smaller details. The initial suspension came down on a Saturday morning on the same week of the trade deadline. And literally 24 to 48 hours later, we've seen multiple trades happen, so it was easy for a lot of these media pundits to move off this story. Paul George does play for a relevant team right now in the NBA who has Joel Embiid in his prime, and they're trying to cash in on that. That team not only just got the ball rolling, the rookie and VJ Edgecombe is making a lot of noise, Tyrese Maxey is doing his thing, and Paul George has been their best defensive player. So him getting suspended does have an impact on that team and also their roster construction. Not only the 76ers have cut down their luxury tax bill by almost $6 million, now they don't really have to necessarily trade some of the kind of veteran players that they had on their bench, guys like Kelly Oubre or even Andre Drummond, and they could even sign another player while PG is out. So there's major implications with Paul George being suspended, but yet none of the media pundits went on their independent platforms and spoke on this. Not only this was done in unison, but the other side of the coin with Charles Barkley and the guys in the inside crew not necessarily happy about their lack of appearances and other media pundits saying that the NBA is slowly silencing them. Now them dropping this inside information is sort of that same Cold War that LeBron James is having with Jeannie Buss, but they're doing it through that podcast with Rich Paul, and Jeannie Buss countered back by just devaluing LeBron in that article, talking about they thought about trading him to the Clippers. They didn't want to re-sign him to an extension. These are the Cold War games that are playing out. The current day media landscape is something that the NBA is new to right now, trying to gain control of some of the narratives. But it's like almost playing a game of whack-a-mole. The Phoenix Suns forward Dylan Brooks appeared on a popular streamers platform, Neon, and not only he revealed that he thought Podcast P was really PEDP, But he also took shot at certain players, saying that when they start falling off, that's when they head to podcasting.
Bro, you know what you should do?
What?
Podcast.
Yeah. When it's all said and done. I be getting on dudes that want to do the podcast during while they're playing.
Like Paul George and Draymond Green?
They're all terrible.
You don't like Draymond's podcast?
Oh, he talk too much to me. But I'm saying they're not good at
Thank you, brother.
Because they're so focused on the...
What are your retirement plans after retirement?
Sit back and burn some ganja.
Hey, Dylan Brooks been reading that pamphlet that Shaq was talking about. How long does that shit stay in my system? Oh, I'm good. Smoking that ooh-wee.
You're a pothead. You a pothead. You definitely smoke before games. Nah, bro, hold on. Let me smell your weed.
Who did? Oh, yeah, that's the...
Oh, yeah, they cut. Oh, yeah. Not, hey, man, you know, I don't know if
But that's PEs, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
That's PE.
He dropped 30 points or some shit. They tested him right away.
Right away. But it was looking like it, though. Yeah.
Dylan is not lying right here. That came across my timeline. I seen PG dunk on a fast break. I had to look at that shit twice. I was like, okay, PG's healthy. But just seeing that, I was a little bit thrown off. But again, your mind is not going to go straight to PEDs.
Dead ass, he don't move good. And all of a sudden, he's cashing out trade. He's looking like himself like 4 years ago.
Dylan Brooks on that camera talking like it's just me and you, going in on Paul George. But I did a segment on that for last season. When it comes to PG, he just wasn't quite looking himself. I'll link that in the description below. He's definitely trying his best to just cling around the league. And that's something that Adam Silver eventually is going to have to address, because the previous commissioner, David Stern, he was not accepting older stars being in the league this long and just lingering around. Guys like CP3, even after getting kicked off the Clippers, are talking about, I have a chance to go to the Mavericks. I still want to play.
So it's destined to happen. He has a podcast?
That's what I'm saying.
Oh my God.
Podcast P.
Podcast P.
I guarantee he's gonna be on there explaining his story. Saying what happened.
Paul George this season has not podcasted at all. I'm always saying East Coast fans take their basketball very personal, especially when there's an appearance that players are putting in a lack of effort and energy. Cities like New York, Boston, Philadelphia, and even to a degree, I'm going to add Chicago to it, even though they're out there in the Midwest. Their fans kind of operate in the same way. Paul George in the last 7 seasons have only played above 65 games one time. And so far, in 2 seasons with the Philadelphia 76ers until he comes back in March, he's only played 68 games. That pressure gets real when you're on the East Coast. And to live up to that contract, that max deal that he got, Podcast P might have felt that pressure to become PEDP. If you don't believe that East Coast pressure of just winning and being successful, especially coming from those diehard passionate fans, just listen to Philadelphia native Gilly the Kid, who embodies everything you would think about someone from Philly, express some of his true feelings right to Paul George's face about some of the efforts and some of the things he's been seeing with the 76ers in his first season. He was very blunt, straight to PG's face. He told him what he really thought.
And I hate to be harsh, man, but I gotta speak what's the real, how we feeling, man. Bro, you played damn near just as many games as you didn't play, bro. And it's getting to the point now where it's like, man, fuck that shit, man. Rebuild all this shit, man. Because we don't even know if our motherfucking best player gonna be available, man. Like, it ain't no doubt to me that Joel Embiid is the best fucking player on the planet. I say that all the fucking time. The only difference is we don't know what the fuck we gonna get every night, man. Oh, we might come out one night, I'm about to give you motherfuckers 50 and 20. Come on in. And we might come out the next night and he might just settle for 17-footers all day. The one thing about Giannis is you know you gonna get maximum fucking effort every fucking night, man. So that just be my problem, bro. Philadelphia, we like to see effort. Allen Iverson didn't win shit. He will always be the GOAT around this motherfucker because he put in 100% effort. He left everything on the floor. It's not because he won. It's not Brian Dawkins never won shit around here. He will always be a GOAT because when our eyes looked at Brian Dawkins, it said he gives up maximum fucking effort every single time.
Every snap.
Every snap. Jason Kelsey, same thing. It's motherfuckers around there that you be like, why are they GOATs? Because when we watch them, we watch them give up maximum effort and put their fucking life on the line. And we fucking respect that. We a hard-working fucking city that ain't got shit, bro. You gotta understand, when the Eagles lose, it feel like your fucking cousin died, bro.
Hey, Gilly, I feel you on that. That's some East Coast shit. We take it real personal. It's crazy enough for the fans to pack in those arenas, just fighting on the train and just typical everyday city muscle and bustle shit. But fans even got to fight to get in those arenas. It's not like other parts of the country where you could just pull up with your car and just walk to the games. In the East Coast, because of the density, there's always a battle to get somewhere, especially a pro sports game where everyone's trying to get to the same place at once. That shit is like a Royal Rumble. Again, this situation is very multi-layered because players podcasting while they're still just stars in the league, there's a lot of gray areas that come with that. And in a way, they actually overexpose themselves to fans during the hard times. This is where we see all the PR teams around some of these guys kind of coach them up on what to say or just write certain statements for them. This is the part of the segment where I get into the mental illness and that branding, especially coming from public figures. That has become a crutch to garner sympathy, and that shit is getting very tiring. Shams had dropped a report on the suspension early Saturday morning, followed by PG posting a statement. So this was definitely looking very coordinated, but the real question is, when did PG fail the exam? Matter of fact, let's check out his statement.
Over the past few years, I've discussed the importance of mental health, and in the course of recently seeking treatment for an issue of my own, I made the mistake of taking an improper medication. I take full responsibility for my actions and apologize to the Sixers organization, my teammates, and the Philly fans for my poor decision-making during this process. I am focused on using this time to make sure that my mind and body are in the best condition to help the team when I return.
The NBA or any other professional league being the gladiator environment that it is, claiming mental illness is not a good thing. Even if they do have it, but just making that public, it's not a positive. The PR teams for guys like DeMar DeRozan and Paul George are not doing them any favors by letting them cling on to be some sort of advocate for it. But what does that really even mean? Are they part of any entity that actually has boots on the ground and is making an actual difference? Or is it just another part of the whole coded language that public figures are making nowadays? Look at other public figures and let's say they have a sexual scandal. All of a sudden they'll say they need to go to rehab. They're an addict. Those are the spins. But in the sports world, it's a gladiator environment. You got to kill or be killed. Where's all the mental illness statements when it comes to contract time? I don't see teams lining up the door trying to give max contract to guys that are supposed to be leaders through very highly pressurized situations. It's only after the contract's already signed, the prime years are a thing of the past, that's when all this mental illness, oh, I'm an advocate for it, comes about. A cerebral assassin like Kobe Bryant, hypothetically, if he went into an NBA Finals against a guy like DeMar DeRozan, he would chew him up verbally on the court with that mental illness shit. Make no mistake about it. But on a lighter note, that's why all that soft branding when it comes to the arena of sports, it's real confusing. But on a lighter note, Cameron, Mace, and Hall of Fame wide receiver Michael Irving spoke on some of the soft PR spins when it comes to mental illness. And they all displayed the same skepticism that a lot of us have. And coming from certain cultures, that was never an excuse as a crutch, especially from the brothers. That is not something culturally that is considered something to hide behind. But you guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
Well, we all wish we could have pulled that shit. You know how many times we wish we could have been like, yo, nah, I'm bugging. We all got PTSD growing up where we grew up. If that's the motherfucking case, we could pull that card at any time for anything. I should be able to use mental health when I want. You know, I grew up in a war zone. I should be able to pull that card. Right or wrong. Yo, niggas grew up in a war zone.
Yo, Cameron, speaking facts, anybody grew up in NYC, I would say the 80s, the 90s, man, whenever, even now. it's always been a war zone. Almost 99% of the population can claim that mental illness. Just the amount of fuckery we have to walk past every day. Whether you're downtown, no matter where you at, you're always gonna see some dumb shit. But it's normal in New York. That's why everybody just keeps to themselves. Even a stranger just talking to you out of the blue, it's almost like you have to look around like someone's trying to set you up. That's why New Yorkers are kind of standoffish.
I should be able to pull that card. Right or wrong. Yo, niggas grew up in a war zone in the 80s in Harlem. It's a war zone, nigga. Like, I should be able to pull my PTSD card anytime and say, yo, I need treatment. Mike, when you grew up, listen, that's the thing my man Sin be arguing about with me, and I try to have this, the other side of the coin joint. Go ahead and tell your grandmother you going through some mental issues. She'll smack the shit out you, nigga. You can't have mental issues growing up in the 80s, nigga. You're not allowed to whip your ass. That's what I'm saying. Fuck you, man. You got nigga, bop, you all right now, nigga? Fuck you talking about?
You all right now? Exactly what it is.
Yo, my mental health, And you know what's crazy? I'm looking straight. But I can tell by Stat doing her hair, she can't even understand.
You're stressing me out. Like, you're stressing me out.
I just see how my peripheral. She's like, y'all wasn't allowed to say that y'all had mental health issues? No.
You're going to have more problems than that. You keep it up.
Stat is 100% right. Money Mace is on point with that because people will be making fun of you. And that scenario plays out in the sports world too. I'm telling you, if Kobe Bryant was still around, he would kill some of these guys verbally with this whole mental illness excuse coming from public figures, especially if you're on the court.
Hey, but listen, when them cops hit that door at that hotel room and busted their hands off, what are you doing on these 5 girls? I got some mental health issues.
Yo, Michael Irving is hilarious. He also got a little bit more in that hotel room than just those girls. He got some of that white powder, some of that cotton candy.
You going through something, Mike. You going through something.
I wish I could have used that. Y'all gotta leave now because I'm working through some mental health issues. Y'all gotta leave. Put your guns away and get out.
Put your guns away and get out and just ignore this huge pile of cocaine right here. I'm going through some mental health, guys. Just give me a break on this one. Tell Troy Aikman, I'm sorry. I'll save some of the powder for you, though, in case you need it, but tell him I'm sorry.
Please get out.
See this shit right here, but this what I'm trying to say is that regardless of whatever, right? I'd rather the nigga just took his 25-game suspension and said, my bad, I fucked up, to try to use that as the disclaimer for the people who may really be going through something. And I'm not saying he isn't or whatever, but it's just convenient.
But this ain't that.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's very convenient you're going through mental health issues when you get caught. Yeah. I would love to hear stats and Bert. What do you have to say about this?
Yeah, we're not saying, for those that are listening, we're not saying you're lying. We're just saying it feels like it. So we just want to put that disclaimer out there.
That's what you got to love about this current media landscape. You're going to have some people giving it up and speaking the real. The reason why Paul George is hiding behind this, because one of the tactics of the media is that if you call him out on his bullshit, they're going to say you're making fun of people with mental health and you're against it and all this good guy versus bad guy positioning with coded words, and the shit gets nasty. But the 76ers are staying quiet about this. Not only they save quite a few dollars when it comes to the luxury tax, $6 million, but they also don't have to trade away their more veteran role players, guys like Kelly Oubre or Andre Drummond. Utilizing whatever is left of Joel Embiid's prime years is a must. It's crazy when you think about it because the 76ers this season don't really have expectations from the national media to be competing for a championship, but in reality, they are positioned to. We'll see though. Adam Silver eventually is going to have to address the issue with veteran players staying a little bit too long in the league, especially when their bodies really can't hold up. Podcast P is feeling that pressure to perform in Philly, while at the same time he already knows his body hasn't held up in the past 6 seasons. He's basically just been rehabbing and coasting. And sometimes you have to know when to pull that plug, even though when the money is good. Them East Coast expectations is a different monster. Paul George is finding out the hard way. You guys definitely hit up the link in the description below. Check out my NBA True Story playlist for more nuanced topics just like this. And until next time, you fellas stay safe. Peace.